So Bhavika, I would like you to help students who look up to you and who want guidance in sociology and help them clear this exam in the next go as soon as possible.
I did my graduation in economics from the University of Delhi. And the first time when I got selected, I'm presently training for the Indian Postal Service. My subject was economics. I did not score as well as I would expect to in economics, so I made the transition to socio, in which Nishat sir played a very fundamental role. So foundation course was my first source. This is for paper 1 and paper 2 both. More sources does not always mean more content or better content. Stick to what you have, stick to what you know. Sir keeps on talking about, which is you have to meet the demand of the question. If your cake is not solid, the icing makes no difference. The thinkers and everything are just the icing on the top. When I think about religion now, I can go back to a whiteboard, I can write down religion, and that is my method of revising. First is that whenever you're learning a topic, your approach has to go top to bottom. What do I mean when I say this? There is a learning pyramid, where this is just your factual information, and as you move up the pyramid, as far as using AI for your preparation is concerned, use it to prepare questions. Don't outsource your thinking to AI, because you will not be able to answer a question in the exam using AI. You do not have the phone at your disposal, you just have your own mind.
Okay, so very good afternoon, guys. We have with us AIR 25, Bhavika Chopra. A big round of applause for her. And I would say that, you know, Bhavika's success is quite different for me personally because she comes from Chandigarh, a city where I was born and brought up. And that's why her selection is always going to be very different from me personally. And she had been associated with Indian Postal Services, an institution my father dedicated his life to. And this becomes another reason for her, for me to celebrate her success and consider it as very personal success. So, Bhavika, I would like you to help students who look up to you and who want guidance in sociology um, and help them clear this exam in the next go as soon as possible. Please, Bhavika, come on stage. Let's have brief discussion.
Yes, sir.
Bhavika will be, showing her notes also to you, how she prepared her notes, and what exactly helped her get this tremendous score in sociology. 287 she got this year. Okay, Bhavika, stage is all yours.
So thank you so much for those kind words. And just a brief introduction. I did my graduation in economics from the University of Delhi. And the first time when I got selected, I'm presently training for the Indian Postal Service. My subject was economics. I did not score as well as I would expect to in economics, so I made the transition to socio, in which Nishat sir played a very fundamental role. And sir has been very kind in saying that, he often used to say that, oh, I'm expecting you to get selected. Or I remember I came to him after prelims and he said that there's nothing much that differentiates a topper's copy from your copy. And that was something that gave me a lot of confidence. So he's been a very fundamental part of this journey. So thank you for that, sir. So before we start, can I know how many people are writing this attempt and how many people are writing the next attempt? First, this attempt, please. Okay, and next attempt? All right, great. So we can go two ways about it. What I can do is I can detail my journey when I started in 2024 when I made the transition. Then in the second phase, I can start off with what I did between that period of prelims and mains. So I've structured this into three parts, but all the parts are interlinked. First is the sources. Is this handwriting fine? Is this okay? Then the second part is note making. And the last is answer writing. And all the three flow simultaneously. For sources, my base was SIRS Foundation course. And for that, what I have is an example of the notes that I had. So, say for example, this was what my class notes looked like. It was one of those thick registers. At the end of every lecture or every topic, I would leave a small, how do we move down? So, if this is talking about M.N. Srinivas, we go down, and after every class, I'd go back to the notes and make a small little summary at the end. So when I'm revising for a test, this comes in handy. This is how ideally one is supposed to use their class notes. You always end up going back to them either on the same day or the very next day. Because I don't know if all of you know about this learning curve. You forget the very next day whatever you've learned in class. So that is a very fundamental thing that you have to do. So foundation course was my first source. This is for paper 1 and paper 2 both. Then when I was starting out socio, because I was a beginner and I had not studied the subject ever, except for maybe a generic elective in college, I referred to this playlist on YouTube called Crash Course Sociology. It's by John Green. He runs this channel called Crash Course. So just watch it like a story. What I also did was, in my notes that I had from the foundation course itself, I would keep adding stuff from this particular playlist. And this had good examples, good case studies, which you could quote everywhere. So whatever examples I added, I either put it on a paper post-it note or wrote it in red pen to make sure that when I was going back and revising it, it would stand out to me. With a subject that has so much content in the market, setting apart your answers comes from examples and insights which others might not be using. Something like picking up an article from the newspaper, something like picking up examples from YouTube videos. So things like that really set your answer apart. So this was my second thing, which is that crash course. So how this translates into note making is your foundation course or whatever your source material is, it translates into short notes. That's the first step. And these short notes have to be either a summary or something that you remember. It is preferable if you go back after class and try to blurt out whatever you remember. There's this method called the Feynman method, where you basically go back, you sit down with an empty piece of paper, you write down whatever you remember, then you go back to your notes and fill in those gaps in your knowledge. That really helps out. So these short notes you revise before class, and these short notes are something you'll be making over and over again. I did personally 3 iterations of these, which I'll show you right after this. So these short notes, when I talk about, these are the summaries at the end of every single chapter. Then, so what happens in answer writing after this is, what you're essentially doing is you're referring to PYQs. But here your answers will probably not have the nuance. When I go back to the answers that I was writing in June or July of 2024, they lacked nuance, they lacked thinkers, they lacked books. They just had a very solid core understanding of what the question was asking, which is what Sir keeps on talking about, which is you have to meet the demand of the question. If your cake is not solid, the icing makes no difference. The thinkers and everything are just the icing on the top. So this is something that really helps out. After this, there's this book that I refer to, which is called the DK Book of Sociology, the Big Book of Sociology. And what I did was, you pick up the UPSC syllabus, you pick up the book, you see whatever relevant topics you have. And there are parts of my notes, sections of my notes in which verbatim I have picked out definitions. I have picked up what thinkers have to think about it. I have picked up good examples. So this book, I think you can find it online as well, or just get the copy itself. I mean, it's a great resource. It's fun to read. It's very colorful, has pictures and all for all of us who don't like plain books. It's better than Harlombos, because Harlombos is black and white. It's boring, right? So this book really helped out. And what this essentially does is, these two sources make what you call value addition. Whenever everyone talks about value addition, this comes from these two things, and it comes from something that I did on my own, which is my own current affairs. This is a PDF that I think I should show right now. So anything that I saw in the news that was important, I just put it down in one single PDF. You compile a PDF, either you do it on an app like Notability, or you just simply click screenshots and put it in a PDF format. So here I picked up a lot of examples: role of state, socialism, and scientific temper. This is something about religion and maybe how the role of religion is increasing or decreasing. Young India is turning spiritual. And it is good business. Now, the entire article is not something you need to know or learn. We just have to pick up whatever is relevant for us. And this understanding, again, comes from going back to the PYQs over and over again. Because whatever is relevant for the exam, you pick up from the news or you pick up from these articles when you know that this is something that can be asked. So when I'm reading this article also, in my mind, in the back of my head, I'm also thinking, where all can I put this? Can I put this in a question about secularization? Can I put this in a question about the role of religion in India? Can I put this in a question about demography? Of course I can. So I have to make that mind map immediately when I'm reading an article of this sort. So all of this is essentially value addition to your notes. After this, what I did was this is something I did post prelims. There is a small course on YouTube again called Foundations of Modern Social Thought. It is by this Yale professor, and you don't have to watch the entire course. The last 7-8 videos are Marx, Weber, and Durkheim. What really helps is when you're thinking about, when you're learning about a thinker, knowing the context in which they operate really helps you come down to why they're writing what they're writing and how they are thinking. When we think about Durkheim, we also need the context of the fact that he's lived through 3 revolutions. When you and I, say, for example, write an answer, the current affairs of our world play a very significant role in how we talk, how we write. So knowing that helps us bring context into the answer. And this is where nuance comes into your answer writing. And one more thing about answer writing that I wanted to talk about is when I was writing answers, I was not taking the time that was required. When I started writing the first answers after June of 2025, I was taking 4.5 hours with breaks in between to finish my answer copies. Then when I ended up writing full length tests in August, those were the last ones I was writing. That time I had narrowed it down to 3 hours. The catch is you have to build quality first and then move on to speed. If you don't have quality in your answers, you're just going to be writing whatever you know, whatever you want to write instead of what the question is asking. So that exercise you have to do beforehand. It's okay if you sit down with PYQs like we did in our classes. Sit down with PYQs, brainstorm first. Even if you're not brainstorming, try to write an answer first. That is really helpful. So all of this process was going on simultaneously. This was in the beginning, the first step. The second step was happening somewhere in November, December, Jan. And all of this continued till about February, after which I did the course of the Yale professor that I was talking about. His name is Ivan Slenier or something. He's a very good professor. And so you do this first. Now there are 5 points that I wanted to talk about. First is that whenever you're learning a topic, your approach has to go top to bottom. What do I mean when I say this? There is a learning pyramid where this is just your factual information. And as you move up the pyramid, you go down to creating. An example of this which I can give is first is family. So when we're talking about changing families in paper 2, the beginning is what kind of families exist? Are they blended families, nuclear families? And as we move up, we're comparing the types of families, we're understanding why those families exist, in what social context they exist. This level 6, is what essentially we are supposed to do when we take up our roles as administrators or as we're part of the bureaucracy. So here you're supposed to think about things like how can these be regulated? When you move top down, when you're thinking about how law plays a role in blended families, in nuclear families, in live-in relationships, that is when you're thinking about the broader social context. So all these dots need to be interconnected. How has the legal framework for families evolved. So you move top down. When you move top down, your understanding is better. And this is not a very difficult thing because all of us are reading the newspaper every day. We know the context. All we have to do is move down this pyramid. So there are two things happening simultaneously. First is we're moving down this pyramid, but we are moving up that cake we're talking about. Our foundation is solid, but all of this value addition we are doing on top of that. These are two things. After this, what we can do is I want to look at the iterations of the short notes that I did. So this is the first iteration. This happened in my notebook itself. This is something that you can look at the notes and also do. Preferably, you do it so that you remember whatever you studied in class. The moment you do it, it becomes clearer. The second iteration was something like this. It was essentially blurting out whatever I remembered about a particular topic. So this is about religion. It has everything that's there. Again, this is a little incomplete because this was done somewhere in September of 24 or November of 2024. All of this was happening right before we were being tested for these particular topics. What this does is, when I think about religion now, I can go back to a whiteboard, I can write down religion, and that is my method of revising. Your method of revising ideally should not be going back to your textbook or your notes. It should be trying to apply and remember whatever you have learned. So say, for example, this is religion. I've written down factors of cults, and I know that there are about 8 things here. What I will do is I will go to my whiteboard. I'll say, okay, a question in the past might have been, say, for example, what are the reasons for rise of cults? So I know there are 8 or 9 points that I know. Can I remember those points? Then after that, I'll think, oh, what are the thinkers I can include? And all of this exercise is happening right outside your textbook because it's happening in your mind. Your thinking will translate into your writing, and that clarity of thought is needed to create clarity in writing. So this was what I was doing when I was preparing for those tests. Again, emergence of sociology, this is why Britain, and just small little notes on what are the important topics. Now, towards the very end, what I was doing was, can we reduce the size for this? Yeah. So what I was doing was, this is unit 1 of paper 1. I picked up all the PYQs that had come for the past maybe 10, 12 years. You write down the topic right in front of the PYQ. You write down, is it emergence of sociology? Is it the Renaissance? Is it the Reformation? Is it the French Revolution? So, and you make these small notes. Okay, Enlightenment plus scientific revolution gives us something, and then scope of socio is part of it. What does Weber say about it? This is what I'm revising right before I'm walking into the exam hall. And this is exactly what I'm doing when I am sitting down on my desk thinking about, okay, let me remember the syllabus. The syllabus should be on your tips. If you don't know the syllabus, there is no way you're going to be able to write a good answer, because all of your content that you're consuming, it needs to be put out. If I am just reading, but I'm not able to reproduce it, there's no point to it. So this was again for Unit 2. Another thing was, what really helped me this time was, Unit 2 has a part called data collection, where you talk about qualitative and quantitative methods. A lot of people end up ignoring it. I somehow, because of Sir, I think had done it really well. And I could answer the 20-mark question, I think, perfectly, which is why that discrepancy in my marks also shows the kind of effort that I put in paper 1, I did not replicate for paper 2. So in paper 1, my marks are significantly higher than paper 2. Had I done the same exercise, perhaps they also could have been higher. So this is a takeaway for all of you. Don't ignore paper 2. So this is about it. And then after this, I also, towards the very end, right before you go write your exam, make a list of books. I know this is very against what Sir says, because Sir stresses upon that understanding, meeting the demand of the question. And if your core is that, if your core demand is met, then sprinkling on this icing makes the cake better. So all of this person wrote this book in this year and said this, but this should be a supporting argument. It should never be that Marx in his book said this. This is my argument, as marks iterated in this book. So it's supposed to flow very naturally. That is how it's supposed to go. Quality over speed. And also connecting dots across papers. We somehow, and I made this mistake for sure, we sometimes prepare for papers in silos, but papers don't work in silos. GS and socio are two subjects that really interconnect. This time my marks in paper 1 of GS went up to 110, and last time it was 89. So I think the paper this time was very socio-oriented. There was a question about the American and French Revolution, something that we study about. There was a question about tribes. There were a lot of questions related to socio. So that knowledge you can pick up and put there. What it also does is you can also use this same knowledge in paper 4. You can use it in paper 2. You can use it in your essay. And I did. In the essay, there was a topic that thought not only creates a new world, it also finds one, or something of this sort. And how socio really originated. If you get the hang of that, if you understand that, it's all just thinking, right? So when you go back to your essay and you're putting these kind of ideas without maybe mentioning the thinkers, it really gives an edge to your essay. So nothing is happening in silos. Then after this, a couple of tips that I had. You have to use simple language, but use terms which are socio-specific. Without those socio-specific terms, your answer will come off as a GS answer. This is for the first thing. The second thing is the number of points do not matter in your optional. They matter in your GS subjects. In your GS subjects, you have to overload. In your optional, you have to go to the core of the question and meet the demand. More sources does not always mean more content or better content. Stick to what you have, stick to what you know, and practice learning and using that content across papers. If I know one thing that I can apply across 4 papers, that is more useful to me than 5 things learned for 5 different papers, which I have to put extra effort into. This is it. And in the actual paper, what I also did was you have to stick to the static questions, which is what Sir always says. If you stick to dynamic questions, it creates a lot of space for subjectivity. Static questions are more objective in the sense that they provide you with a strong foundation, a strong base. And how you differentiate those static questions, because everyone's going to be writing the same thing. You add a certain amount of nuance to it, like we talked about here. So this nuance that you add to it comes from your own effort. The foundation, everyone will help you build. Sir will help you build. You can pick up your own notes. You can make your notes from books. But this extra effort and then remembering it and trying to replicate it by active recall or like blurting it out. If you don't understand it properly, you will not be able to replicate it. There's no point of using jargon if you don't understand it, right? And like just some parting thoughts before we open the floor up for questions. If you look at it as work, it's always going to look irritating and boring. If you make it fun for yourself, like I tried to do, YouTube videos, animated videos, books that have pictorial representations, picking up newspaper articles, picking up magazines, it'll always be nice. And as far as using AI for your preparation is concerned, use it to prepare questions. Don't outsource your thinking to AI, because you will not be able to answer a question in the exam using AI. You do not have the phone at your disposal. You just have your own mind. An exercise that I did was this pyramid that we talked about. It's called Bloom's taxonomy. So you tell ChatGPT that map UPSC syllabus to PYQs and give me level 5 and level 6 questions. That way, it's giving you the kind of questions that the exam might throw at you. It's giving you questions based on which you can open up your thinking abilities, but you are not telling it to tell you what the correct answer is. The correct answer, again, is very subjective. So this is how you use AI. Try not to outsource your thinking to AI. Use it to plug in your knowledge gaps. Use it for compilation. If you're thinking of making that book list. To be very honest, I relied on ChatGPT for a good book list, but it came with the knowledge of what the books had inside them. If you're just dropping books without knowing, the people sitting there will be able to tell they are very good professors. In addition to this, For paper 2, I relied on the NCRTs. The NCRTs are a gold mine. There are 2 questions verbatim from the NCRTs this time in the exam in paper 2. So don't skip those. If you can use contemporary examples like books, say for example Sanjay Baru's book, the Indian Migration Theory or something of that sort, that's the book. There was a question about nation building. I put in why nations fail because that just won the Nobel Prize. So use that in your answers. That again brings a little bit of nuance to your answers. What is it that is separating your answer from other people? Everyone's writing the same thing. Socio is a very, very common subject, and the content is very easily available in the market. Last but not the least, please spend time away from your phone. We tend to do this. I know this is going to sound very preachy, but we tend to do this whenever we're sitting, we have time, we whip out our phone. In the metro, we're traveling, we pick up our phone. It's in those silent spaces that most of the thinking happens. Your brain does something which it doesn't do during sleeping. It's called defragging or something. So don't use your phone as much while you're preparing because you're depriving yourself of that time you might have had to think about something or encode something in your long-term memory. So that really helps. That's it from me. I'm open to questions if there are any.
So, Bhavika, firstly, I'll ask you a few questions on behalf of students and then we'll open the platform to students. Okay. So, first question is, how important is understanding a theory or a concept? Why can't I, suppose if I were to begin my preparation now, why can't I simply refer topper's notes and finish my preparation?
No, sir, like I also made those same things. The point is,
Mhm.
I haven't released my notes yet because I know it's going to create that thing where
Mhm.
people will refer to them, will refer to the summary, not do the thinking for themselves. So this cake, this foundation comes from an understanding of the theories, of the thinkers, knowing what they are trying to say and how that is still relevant to the questions that UPSC is going to ask us. Because we are not preparing for a bachelor's, we are preparing for the exam. And as someone who gave just 1 year to socio, this is exactly the blueprint that I followed. I can tell you, like July 24 to August 25, what I did. This is exactly what I did.
Okay. And secondly, how different understanding which I borrow from Chat GPT is going to be different from the understanding that I develop in the lone time, which you suggested that comes with you staying away from the phone.
Yes, sir.
How different is these two understandings?
So I am just a disclaimer. I'm not against using AI, but an understanding from Chat GPT is telling us. It's something that is being fed to us. We are just consumers. We are not producers, but we have to move up this Bloom's taxonomy pyramid. We have to create. We have to think. So, for example, there was a question in paper 1 about religion and how 3 thinkers conceptualize religion.
Yeah.
That understanding did not come from Chat GPT. That understanding came from me writing, essentially making those small notes that I did. When I'm writing down and I'm connecting the dots, I'm understanding that Durkheim, okay, he talks about solidarity. So religion for him is a binding force. But Marx, on the other hand, he's a critical thinker. He will always think of religion as a dividing force. So that understanding you build when you're doing things on your own. If it's told to you, you can't sit down in the paper and do all of this. This thinking needs to be developed and it comes with time.
Great. Okay. So, any advice for students preparing for sociology, what they should not be doing?
What they should not be doing.
Hmm.
I think, sir, learning thinkers before they understand concepts. Concepts are key. If you don't understand a concept, say for example, Sanskritization, when we throw that word at anyone, the first thought that comes to mind is M.N. Srinivas. But it's not M.N. Srinivas. The Sanskritization as a concept, do we understand it? Do we understand the types? Do we understand the counter arguments? Then we can bring in the thinkers after we understand the concept.
Very nicely put. बहुत अच्छा point बोला इन्होंने. The moment we think of Sanskritization, M.N. Srinivas names pops up. But what we must understand is what is the process about, and we also need to understand the dynamic aspects of this process and not just reduce it to one group emulating another group. We need to understand the spread of values, which is going to be the outcome of this group emulating the other group. So Bhavika will open the platform to questions to students if they have to ask any certain question. Anybody?
Hello, ma'am. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Like you mentioned, like when we start reading the topic,
Yes.
and we have to just not reading the factual things like in that pyramid way. So in what should we mention, like in which parameter we should think, like we can take the help of the PYQ.
Yes.
Other than PYQ, like in which themes like we can broad our thinking for particular topic. So can you please light on this?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would recommend again is PYQs. The second thing is newspaper articles, because we have context. We're reading a decent amount of current affairs, and so when you use that to bring down to read whatever you're reading for that subject. Say for example, I'm reading about case laws that have come up again to family and live-in relationships. When I'm reading about family types and the evolution of family types, this should be in the back of my head. When I'm thinking about polyamory, when I'm thinking about polygamy, my mind should go to, okay, have I studied this in my paper 2? I have. Is there a current affairs news that's related to it? Yes. You remember there was this one newspaper article that went viral about a lady marrying two brothers in hill tribes. So when I'm reading that, I am encoding it back in my memory based on where all can I put this in paper 1, where all can I put this in paper 2. So essentially that, newspaper articles, whatever's going on, and things that you see around yourself. Religion, for example. You and I are, you have a tilak on your head, I have this on my wrist. So it's all coming from a place of religion evolving, right? And these are insights that you can use in answers. Maybe not verbatim, but something of this sort.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. And related to these, one more questions.
Yeah.
Like while making the short notes.
Yeah.
So at that time we like collect the things like PYQ and the what is going on in current and whatever like in general we have to think.
Yes.
But while connecting like inter topics, so at that time first we have to think particular topic, and once we done with that particular topic, like for all the topics, then we can I think go ahead with the interconnecting until all topics not done. I think I hope you understood.
Yeah, I see, I understand your question, but again, I don't think the topics also are so siloed, because when I'm thinking about religion, I'm also thinking about stratification, right?
Yes.
I'm also thinking about Marx talking about how religion is a tool of the powerful, how a particular class benefits. When I'm thinking about religion, I'm also thinking about gender stratification, how religion benefits a particular gender. Or when I'm thinking about stratification, I am also thinking back to how it has evolved, how that evolution plays a role in today's work culture, for example, caste, and how caste operates in stratification in work. Does that help? So nothing is desiloed, but these insights come from going back to your material and thinking about it. Just sitting down with the material, making those linkages for yourself.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No issue. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, my query is during the answer writing, what is the role of preference of the point? Because first of all, during the writing, we think about the generic point. So, is it work?
So I think it depends from question to question. In paper 2 this time, I felt that there was a lot of scope for writing generic content. There was very little scope for thinkers and their ideas. So in that, if you're writing generic points, but relevant points, the points have to be relevant, of course. If you're writing about caste and you're still able to write certain points which are relevant to the answer, it makes sense. But in paper 1, if the question is only asking me about religion, like this one question that came this year that was about religion, if you're not writing the valid points, if you're not giving the definition, when I'm starting comparing three thinkers, but I'm not defining what they're talking, and I straight on go to stratification and how religion stratifies and everything, that's not very relevant, right? It needs to be a proper, like a bad analogy that I can draw is, it needs to be a meal. You need to start with the starters and you need to end with dessert. You can't start with dessert. I mean, of course you can, but you can't start with dessert and end with the main course. Does that clarify your doubt?
Yes, yes. And my second question is, ma'am, during the writing, ma'am, there are so many points because we during the writing we are write so many paragraph. it is difficult to generate the points in the dynamic questions. What is the approach about it?
So just to understand that I've got your question correct, you're asking about dynamic
Yes,
questions,
ma'am.
right? Dynamic questions, you're finding it difficult to generate points.
Yes, ma'am.
Could we possibly take an example for this and try to address it? Say, for example, how caste plays a role in the workplace today. Yeah, pretty dynamic topic. We can think back to how it plays out in IITs and IIMs, how it impacts placements, how even in the civil services, it's very less to find people among the top ranks who belong to disadvantaged communities. So these are things that you have to connect. You'll have to brainstorm this in the background to be able to write it in the actual exam. Again, this exercise comes from connecting whatever you're reading in current affairs to your static.
Thank
Does
you.
that, yeah.
And one thing which he pointed out, that if the question is like this, that how do we see caste shaping itself out in the workplace, we don't need to directly think of a thinker.
Yeah.
What she has pointed out is that we need to think of how it affects placement, how it affects career opportunities, and how it unfolds in the bureaucracy, how it unfolds in the education system. But uh, most of the students, Bhavika, what happens is they directly start thinking of that particular thinker, which one day, one fine day, had written one an article on the Hindu for this particular line. Okay. And until they have that particular thinker, they would not feel happy. And this would come at the cost of the basics.
Yes, sir.
They would explain everything what this thinker said. There would be one fancy line following the argument, but there would not be any substantiation as to how do we see caste unfolding itself in the workplace.
Yes, sir. No, it happens, sir.
Yeah, it happens.
Yes.
Did it happen to you?
No, sir.
No?
Because I had you guiding me, sir.
That's okay, fine.
But that's what I was saying also, sir. Because the foundation and the concepts were clear, I never felt the need to add in thinkers to make an answer good. My answer, I would say, was decent. The thinkers just added nuance to it. So if I'm adding Professor Jodhka to this particular answer, what it does is it's adding a little bit of nuance to it.
Yeah,
it's not the core of my answer. My core is still the theories itself.
Right. So the arguments which are going to be relevant to the demand are going to be the core. And the thinkers are going to be, as Bhavika said, icing on the cake. Okay, they are going to be the names which are going to help you substantiate your core arguments. Okay, any other question? Yes.
Congratulations, ma'am, first of all, and thanks for giving such a great insights. So my question was regarding solving the PYQs itself. So what I have been doing was to make the pseudo answers for that, because we know that there are a lot of answers in the bunch and eventually won't be solving everyone. So like, what's your strategy while solving the PYQs specifically?
So PYQs have a theme that's repeating itself across years. What I personally did was I picked up one question, and instead of forming a model answer, I would try to write it down maybe in 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes, as long as it takes you. Because right now we have the luxury of time. We are not afforded this luxury after the prelims, of course. So right now you can do that. And across themes, you pick up those particular things and make it into those notes that I did, the small charts that I made, because all of that is based on PYQs. Because I was very new to the subject, I just had PYQs and syllabus sheet to rely on. So that formed the core of my preparation. There is no point in studying stuff that is not relevant to the subject. It has so many things. And a lot of places will also talk about things which have not been asked. So maybe that is something you could avoid. Sticking to the themes, sticking to relevant content, sometimes brainstorming, and then after brainstorming, plugging in those gaps via these notes is something that you could do.
Yeah, just to add on this one, sorry.
Yeah.
Like, as I have started analyzing the toppers copies, we'll be of course using yours as well. So how will you making the short notes, and of course to understand like what you might have done different from, let's say I'm writing those PYQs. So how did you started to understand that particular theory?
So your question is that how did I analyze toppers copies?
Yeah.
And integrated into the PYQs. Toppers copies I primarily use to structure my answers because content, I think more or less everyone has the same. So how to structure your answers is something you can pick up from there. And one more thing is that all answers are going to be different. There's no right or wrong answer, of course, but there are some things that are unskippable. You can't miss those in an answer. So those are things you can see across topper copies. You can see that, okay, one person has answered it this way, another person has answered it in a different manner. What are the similarities among these two answers, which will guide me on what I need to make sure that if this kind of a question comes, I absolutely have to write it. So you see topper A, you see topper B, you pick up one particular answer, you see, okay, they've written it differently, but what are the commonalities? You pick that up.
हेलो मैम। मैम मेरा भी थोड़ा सा सिमिलर आपके से रहा है। मैंने भी ट्रांजिशन किया है टू सोशियोलॉजी फ्रॉम केमिस्ट्री एंड इंटरव्यू दिया था मैंने, बट उसके बाद किया इट्स बीन 4 months जब से सोशियोलॉजी पढ़ना स्टार्ट किया था एंड आई एम गिविंग दिस अटेम्प्ट। सो मैम व्हाइल डूइंग PYQs माय क्वेश्चन इज कि मैंने पढ़ा, मैंने क्वेश्चन उठाया, मैंने लिख दिया, बट मैंने जो लिख दिया, हाउ डू आई इम्प्रूव ऑन दैट?
I would suggest that you go to a teacher or a mentor, which is what I did. Ask them what the deficit in your answer is. Beyond a point, I think when you write your answer, you will have a fair idea of what it is missing if you go back to your notes. The whole point of this exercise where you're sitting and writing down a PYQ is to be able to go back to your notes and see कि इसमें क्या miss हुआ, इसकी introduction में कैसे better कर सकता था, इसकी कंक्लूजन कैसे बेटर हो सकती थी, कोई पॉइंट्स मैंने मिस आउट करे हैं, कोई इनसाइट्स मिस आउट करी हैं. ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट, is there any particular thing that I am not able to explain properly? Because whatever is in our head is very clear to us, but are we able to convey it to the examiner? That comes from simplicity of language. Is my thought process simple enough to be able to explain it to a 10-year-old? If it is not, then I don't understand it myself.
मैम जो मेरे मन में है वो सही है नहीं सही है, ये भी तो कभी कभी डाउट हो जाता है.
Understandable, but that again your mentor, your teacher will help out. You give your copies for evaluation.
नहीं, मैंने सब दिखाई थी.
You refer back to your notes. You refer back to your notes, you refer to other toppers copies. Another exercise which a lot of people do is they pick up a toppers copy, and of course not all of them are going to be good because they're written in a time crunch. You still have maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes to write that answer. So you pick up that question, you write that question, then you compare your answer with the topper's answer. So that is something that you can do. That really helped me also out.
And ma'am, there's one more question.
Yeah.
अभी recent paper 2 में आंसर राइटिंग में कर रहा था. So what I've realized is कि paper 1 में क्वेश्चन पढ़ के समझना लिखना क्या है, that is comparatively easier as compared to paper 2.
Yes.
तो अभी मॉडर्नाइजेशन के मैं क्वेश्चंस लिख रहा था, मैंने नोट्स पढ़ लिए, आई टोटली अंडरस्टूड क्या है इस टॉपिक में, बट आंसर राइट जब मैं करने बैठा तो 5-6 सवाल थे आई थिंक PYQs में, एक से ज्यादा मुझसे समझ नहीं आ रहा था कि इसमें क्या लिखूं अभी इसमें.
So again, I think having a good mentor really helps that. And I face the same issue as you because modernization is a tricky topic. The thinkers are also very limited, and you genuinely have to either go to toppers copies, you have to go to your own notes. Again, because the crux is the same. Static material is the same. You know what you're writing is the same. If you're not able to decode the question, then you need to go to someone who has done it for you. Because again, this exam is not something that any of us is doing on our own. We are guided by people, we're helped by our peers. Of course, I'm sure you have friends also who are doing it with you. So it's not an exercise you need to do alone.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
First of all, congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, मेरा question था like when you are writing answers in paper 1, like relevance answer, like relevance of bureaucracy, relevance of marks, relevance of cost, like how do you answer that questions? मेरा ये question था.
So this kind
like there was a question in relevance of digital governance in bureaucracy. तो ये bureaucracy है वेबर का, तो फिर ये कैसे आंसर कर रहे हैं, मेरे को ये पूछना था.
I actually, yeah, this is a very good question. So what I will do is, it is digital governance and bureaucracy. This is a decoding exercise that I picked up from one of my friends. It is A mapped to B. What I basically have to do here is, what is A? What is B? We know what bureaucracy is. We know what digital governance is. Digital governance is leveraging digital DPI. It is ensuring better reach. It is ensuring more transparency. Now we know what bureaucracy also is. We know bureaucracy is rigid, it is hierarchical. So we basically have to connect these two. Digital governance will create more transparency, will make bureaucracy more efficient, will make it less rigid. So things like this you have to do in the back of your head. This is not something that I will write it down. If I'm writing a GS answer, I might still write it down. I'll draw a table. I'll be like, digital governance does this, and helps bureaucracy in this manner. But in a socio answer, because it's not GS, it needs that depth. I will write about, say, a line about what is digital governance. Start off with what Weber's definition of bureaucracy is, because he's the leading authority on that. List down the features of bureaucracy and map it out to what digital governance does. Does that help?
और लाइक जिसकी सोशल एक्शन क्वेश्चन आते हैं, रेलेवेंस ऑफ सोशल एक्शन, रेलेवेंस ऑफ कास्ट, लाइक इन सबको कैसे
सेम थिंग what is caste?
मार्क्स है, मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन आया रिलीजन पे,
Yeah.
तो लाइक यू आर जस्ट लिखना है कि हाँ ये लेकिन जब रेलेवेंस में आती है उसमें तो कुछ समझ नहीं आता, लाइक मैं क्या लिखूं,
But you
लाइक जो मेरे को आता है तो लिख दिया मैंने,
Yeah.
रेलेवेंस में कंप्लीटली
Okay.
बैंक.
Let's brainstorm this together actually. In the current world, do we see marks being relevant? Do we see certain people making a lot of money and certain people making absolutely no money? We do. Do we see some people being bulldozed for development versus some people gaining out of that development? Do we? Do we see certain countries being exploited for the gain of particular countries, first world countries? We see that. That is marks at play. It's all there out in the open. Yeah.
लिख नहीं पाते, बस ये है.
Then this is something you have to practice. Like, make those short notes. And short notes don't always have to be relevant to what is there in the notebook. If there is something that you read or something that you think about, then you can absolutely write it down on paper. Writing down on paper will help it, like it helps me a lot. It helps me clarify my thought process.
Think like this: whenever you read anything, always try to simplify it to the core. Okay. So much so that you can explain it to a kid studying in class 5. Okay. AI है, जैसे suppose करते हैं, marks की आपने बात करी. All over the world, we are celebrating AI. We are having AI summit, people coming all over the places to different places to India to understand how AI is going to unfold in the near future, how it is going to benefit the humanity, etc., etc. But if Marx was alive today, how he would have seen this AI summit and the whole brouhaha over AI? He would have simply said that all of us are celebrating some few businessmen saving cost. Okay, all of us are celebrating businessman's effort to save cost and maximize his profit. We are not thinking about the people who are going to lose jobs due to AI. Okay, we are keeping that as unintended consequence. We are not thinking of the intention behind the AI. Okay, so this is how he would have thought. But how can we think that Marx would have thought like this if we know Marx properly? But if we just read Marx for the sake of getting marks, we will not get marks. Right, both ways.
Yes, a great insight actually. And you have to be a Marxist when it comes to studying for the paper, but no, maybe not a true Marxist. I don't.
Yeah.
So that same concept, like they're losing a lot of jobs. Marx also talks about an IRA, the Reserve Army. Isn't that increasing in size? That is also happening. So all of this, you need to, whatever your current affairs are, connect it back to social. Everything that is happening in society. Nothing is happening in isolation.
And I was just wondering few days back, we all of us know that how this Iran-Israel thing is playing out, and we don't know when it is going to stop. Many people have a lot of stakes in this war, okay, in many other ways. But if the Strait of Hormuz is closed, how it can affect global economy? Okay. This shows the interconnection of the global chain. Once the Strait of Hormuz is closed, it ends up raising cost of the so-called oil production and oil distribution. And if the oil consumption is going to come at very high cost, it is going to be more costlier to the so-called non-Epstein working class, as Major General G.D. Bakshi is very popular for coining this phrase, non-Epstein working class. Okay, so commoners are going to get more affected by rising oil prices, not the elite people. Okay, and the war is going to help elite people sell off their weapons only. It can be seen as a ground for testing the weapons. Okay, and but this way of thinking is very Marxian. Okay, that war is going to benefit certain people at the cost of many. We just have to think this much only. हमको इतना लंबा कहानी नहीं सोचनी. हमको स्टेट ऑफ हॉर्मूज इतना ऐसा नहीं कि if we are not updated तो हमें मार्क्स ही नहीं पता. हमें बस इतना बताना चाहिए कि see, war is going to affect millions of poor people and it is going to benefit certain people who are having higher stakes. That's it. बस इतना ही लिखना है. Okay. So always think in very simple language and don't. अच्छा भविका ये भी बताओ, जैसे कुछ स्टूडेंट्स पूछते हैं हाउ कैन आई बी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अदर्स. ओके, ये प्रेशर आप कितना लेते थे while writing? If you were writing any answer, were you taking pressure for those 8 minutes? आज मुझे different होना है दूसरों से.
So I think this pressure is only justified once we are writing what the others are writing first. If you're not writing what everyone else is writing, then it's of no use. So again, the foundation needs to be solid. After a certain point somewhere, and I can tell when that inflection also happened, it happened after June. I didn't do very well in the first couple of tests that I wrote here. So I really went into shock because I wanted to do decently well. So I started adding these current affairs. I went back to these lectures that gave me insights into the thinkers' lives. I went back to this social book. But if your content is not there itself, if you're not using this just as icing, but you're using this as your cake, then there's no point. You first have to write whatever is relevant to the question itself. On top of that, whatever comes as an added benefit.
A very good afternoon, ma'am.
Absolutely.
I'm Avinash and I'm from the college across the road.
Oh, right. Okay.
I've recently have appeared for CVT PG in sociology. I'm from BA Honors History.
Okay.
So, ma'am, I have a very foundational knowledge of sociology. I haven't attended any of the coaching for sociology. I have two questions. A is that I have a very foundational knowledge. So, does that foundational knowledge has to be catered by a fledged foundational course for sociology? And B, how do you refer back to your foundational course of GS? Because it's a bulky document, extensive notes. And I had this habit of making very, very deep analytical notes, and it is quite hard to fall back. So how you would have been strategizing this nuance?
So I did not attend any foundation course for GS. GS was entirely done without any notes. For socio, I had notes, again, from foundation course here, and then crash course after the prelims. Dealing with GS, a subject as bulky, what you can do is you can have very short notes, because I primarily relied on those monthly magazines. Towards the end, for revision, write down data points, make those tiny little notes like I did in those outlines, the last minute notes that I showed, these ones. So I had the same thing, but this page was divided into 8 sections. Each section had something. Say, for example, I was writing something about environment. This was water, this was forests, this was land, this was something else. So 8 sections, but only data points. Because the actual points, you need to make those connections beforehand. You can't write all of it down. So that thinking process, again, comes from brainstorming. Rather than referring back to your notes, revising them again and again, try to apply whatever you remember. And these points will come like towards the very end. That is when you just sprinkle it on top for icing. So using that. For socio, on the other hand, I went back to my core notes again and again, because in socio, data, facts, etc., it's relevant, but is not as relevant as your core theories. So if you have absolute clarity of thought when it comes to your core concepts, the rest of the things will come very easily to you. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Sure.
like while making the concept clarity in our mind.
Yeah.
So do we really need to make the note making at the same time, or just like we can clarify that, because it is the very time taking process initially.
Yeah.
So if we can, like from the main resource, we can, if we can clarify our concept, and then after we can from our, like in our language, we can put on the things. So I think it will be.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So your notes don't have to be bulky.
Yes.
They just have to be structured in a manner that if I go back to my notes and I write and I see that one or two, those one or two keywords, like Max Weber, I see that I've written here conformity and degree of comparison, heuristics, what are ideal types, yardstick. This doesn't make any sense as of now. But when I write it, when these words, I write it down in a sentence, in an introduction, it will make absolute sense. So whatever makes sense to you, you write it down in your own words. That is where conceptual clarity comes from. Will you be able to explain that same concept to a 5-year-old, to a 10-year-old? Can I explain to a 10-year-old that Marx said that there are two classes, one is ruling class, one is subordinate class? Will they be able to understand it? So that is my conceptual clarity. That's about it. You have to write it down in your own words. Rest, I mean, you don't need to make bulky notes.
Thank you so much.
No issue.
Hello, ma'am. Congratulations for the rank.
Thank you.
Ma'am, I have one question. So I'm preparing for 2027. So my questions are not related to PYQ.
Awful.
So since I'm starting my journey as of now, I was thinking of taking an online course, but as you said that the importance of peer group and having a mentor nearby to basically look up, okay, say I'm doing this, I'm not able to figure it out. So what difference does it make? And what do you think, how much disadvantage or there is no disadvantage between choosing online versus offline for this particular sociology? Because I have no background in sociology. The sociology comes from engineering background. So coming from that.
So I was in a similar situation and my course was also entirely online, both Crash and the foundation. Having a peer group in that sense, I did not have anyone preparing for the optional with me. I did have people preparing for other subjects with me. So obviously that really helps. But at the same time, if you are in touch with an online community, like we had a Telegram group, I remember, sir, where you could see what other people were writing, how they were writing differently. A peer group just helps you analyze your answers better. And Nishat sir is very easy to access. I mean, he's so welcoming. He's so forthcoming. He's always been very helpful. So I'm sure, like, if you want to reach out to him, then I suppose you could do that. But a mentor somewhere does make a lot of difference.
So how to counter that? How?
Okay, without a mentor.
For example, say you choose online. So who was your mentor in that sense?
I had one of my family friends also helping me out. So she was really helping me out when it came to this. But you don't always need to rely on external sources. You can also have toppers copies. You can also have model answers, which a lot of the test series come up with. But again, those are just model answers. The understanding part you have to build yourself. And again, since you're writing 27, you have a lot of time to go through a lot of these things. A great starting point actually would be that Crash course. It's animated, it's simple, it's about 10 videos, it's about 10 minutes and about 38 videos. Not a very long time. If you just sit down with it and watch it like a storybook, it's going to be fun. Supplement it with that big book of sociology, that purple book. You can also refer to Anthony Giddens' book, the big one that has an introduction. I did refer to it off and on, but I didn't have the time to go through it fully. So if you have the time, you could go through it. How long was a lot of people recommend? I really did not like it. I did not refer to Nitin Sangwan also because I think it's a little overdone. So my source was these foundation course notes, the understanding that I built on them, and then this value addition that used to take place.
So one last question on this topic. So since I'm just starting, so in my previous job and previous role, I used to heavily rely on my thoughts in general. Okay, I'm thinking this, and this is this. So how well does this play out? For example, if I start writing any answer, any form of answer that I write, should I get it evaluated by the AI because it's really fast, or does the subjectivity of the course makes it very unsuccessful in the sense it will not give me a good justice to the answer?
So you're asking about getting evaluations from AI?
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure about that. I don't even know if I'm equipped to answer that question because I never relied on that.
Yeah, in fact, I would say you would not want UPSC to get your papers evaluated by AI, would you?
Yeah.
आप क्या चाहोगे कि यूपीएससी आपकी मेहनत को सिंपली एक चैट जीपीटी में डाल दे और आपको नेक्स्ट डे बोल दे कि आपका हुआ कि नहीं हुआ? तो जब आप खुद ही नहीं चाहोगे तो आप क्यों एआई से करवाना चाहोगे? आज से ही बंद कर दो उसको तो, ठीक है? सो देखो, टॉकिंग अबाउट एआई वो बहुत अलग बात है, ठीक है? उसका एप्लीकेशन बहुत अलग बात है। हमें एग्जाम की तैयारी में देखना है उसकी लिमिटेशंस है। सो यू नो evaluation is very subjective thing. Unfortunately, what happens is when you type something out on a keyboard and when you write something on a paper, both things are going to be different. Because when you type, you have a luxury, you have a privilege to delete something and then rewrite something. But when you start writing on paper, you lose that privilege and the time is running out. Okay. You, unlike what you would do on internet where you would ask ChatGPT to complete the sentence, here you are on your own. You are going to write the sentence on your own within 8 minutes. And that is something which ChatGPT cannot test. Okay, what you do on paper. It can only test what you do on the keyboard. So my suggestion is not to use ChatGPT for evaluation. Only use it to get some rough edges sorted. Okay, or get some rough patches fixed in your understanding.
Yeah. Hi, ma'am. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Ma'am, like when I saw your like whole journey, it's been very. You have done value addition. It has taken time, right?
Yeah.
What about some person who's going to attempt it in this attempt and they are short of time? I have written mains this time.
Okay.
I have got 235 around, and
fine.
but that's like I didn't do these many things, and I think I don't have nuance or understanding it like in my answer. So in this short time, what will you suggest which I can do before prelims?
Before prelims is just about
2 months, yeah.
away. 2 months away.
Like, but my prelim, like I can.
You can
take
use
50
solid
days
clock
more,
it.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So in this short time, I would honestly just advise you to go back to your notes and make sure that the concepts are absolutely clear. I hope there is no issue with conceptual clarity.
No, I think, but
That's
I
good.
No, I don't think I have good conceptual clarity because had I have that, my marks are not reflecting in that way.
Okay, then probably a good solution right now would be just to brainstorm. Pick up questions, pick up test series. Don't write them in whole because that's an exhausting thing to do. Just brainstorm. Think about what introduction you'd write, what conclusion you'd write, what is your body going to be, how it's going to be structured. What that will do is it'll help you think in that manner and write in a simple manner. What I can predict, I don't know if I'm entirely correct, but there might be a discrepancy between what you are trying to convey to the examiner and what is coming out on paper. What is coming out on paper comes from thinking clearly. Another exercise which I would recommend to everyone, and something I did every Sunday, just sit down with any random topic and just write a page or two on it. What it does is that it helps you build a fluency in language, B, fluency in thought, and C, conceptual clarity around some topics. When someone talks to you about a certain topic, you should be able to connect A to B to C. If someone talks to me about environment, I should be able to know whether environment connects to religion also. Does it? It does. In Hawaii, the mountains are worshipped. So that way, those interconnections will not be made in the exam hall. They need to be made outside the exam hall in the background. So these are things that you can do in this period.
Okay. One more thing, ma'am.
Yeah.
You were saying that taking the articles of socio for current affairs. Do you have any like source, or because it will be very long exercise?
So no particular source as such. Editorials from the Hindu, editorials from the Indian Express. I also referred to this magazine called The Week. Not everything, please don't go through everything. Anything that you think is relevant to the syllabus, which is why I reiterated in the beginning itself that knowing your syllabus will help you understand what is relevant to the exam and what is not relevant to the exam. Considering that a lot of you are writing this attempt, I'm assuming you've been in preparation for some time and you have a strong hold of what the syllabus is. This applies across papers. A lot of news articles, a lot of content is not things that you can replicate in the exam hall. So there's no need to study those. Whatever you know, you apply that better. Right now also, I'm sure you have the knowledge of whatever is required for the exam. So use that better. That is it.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am.
No issue.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
My question is about dynamism of paper 2. As far as paper 1 concerned, there are a lot of theories, concepts, thinkers.
Yes.
But in paper 2, there are questions like paleocentric families, sustainable development. So how you tackle that questions and what is the note making strategy for that?
So a lot of dynamic concepts at the end of the day are also rooted in static theories, right? Family, sustainable development. These are things that we do as part of our basics. If you're talking about covering these things, do refer to the NCRTs because the NCRTs do a fabulous job of having definitions, having examples. So dynamic questions, in my opinion, are not always dynamic. They've just either been in the news or have caught the eye of the examiner. When you're answering these questions, of course, bringing in that spice of current affairs helps, but your core always remains static, in my opinion. I might be wrong on this, and sir might be able to substantiate better.
No, you're completely right. In fact, static is the core. And what happens is, there is always this tendency in our mind to look for something which is unconventional that has come in the paper last year, maybe last year, like heliocentric, is one question which definitely is dynamic because that has never been asked in the PYQs, if you see. But that does not mean that now you sit back and think, now how would I prepare sociology? Heliocentric, heliocentric family, I don't know, so I don't know the whole family itself. No, this would be wrong. You know the family structure. Okay. You just need to add this idea of heliocentrism in your notes now. That's it. Okay. But don't focus on such questions like Leela Dubey, Seed and Earth, or Whitehead's idea on caste. First, get your ideas on Shrinivas' concept of caste right. First, get your Louis Dumont's idea of caste system and his understanding right. Issue ये है कि अभी हमें डुमो नहीं पता है and we are worried about Whitehead. Okay. And वो issue जब तक हम resolve नहीं करेंगे, so जैसे आप सोचो प्रीलिम्स में you are always focusing on polity, economy, static पे ही focus कर रहे हो and static ही eventually help कर रहा है. You are reading current affairs for prelims also, but then deep down it is static only which is helping you. Same thing is going to happen in mains. You may look for current articles, but eventually it is static only which is going to help you clear the examination. And whenever dynamic question comes in the paper in sociology, you have this choice to skip those questions and to focus on static.
Sir, if it is a compulsory question like the Leela Dubey, I am unable to attempt that question.
बिल्कुल छोड़ दो.
Exactly.
और क्या?
In fact, I would like to add to this, sir.
Yes.
If you don't know the question, probably like 90% of the people don't know the question. So you leave it. There's no need to fib. There's no need to go on and on about. That's actually going to reflect negatively.
Exactly.
In fact, even this time in paper 2, there was one question which I messed up entirely. 10 marks are genuinely down the drain, but it didn't reflect as badly in my answer because it was asking something else, but I answered something else, which is something that hit me once I reached back home. But it doesn't matter. 10 marks here and there means that the entire score is going to come down for that subject or go up for that subject, depending on how the evaluation takes place. Fringe topics, I think, of course, prepare as much as you can, but these are unpredictable questions.
So they are all based on the PYQ only, no?
Most questions are based on PYQs, and there's a syllabus for a reason. Yeah.
One more question, ma'am.
Yeah.
The applicability of thinkers, like paper 1 thinkers can be applicable in paper 2, and we can do a vice versa.
Yes.
Okay, it is a good.
Absolutely. In fact, even in these, I think somewhere when we go down to stratification, I have Dipankar Gupta's theories written somewhere down here. So essentially, yes, family and kinship is something that even Sir taught us in the same class. Paper 2 and paper 1 was not entirely separate. Work and economics, religion.
It's religion. Work and economy, certification.
So again, this had inequality, sir. Here it is.
Okay.
Harmonic and like this is Biti's idea. Sripuram village is mentioned here, but this is paper 1. This is entirely paper 1. So please use paper 2 and paper 1 thinkers interchangeably as long as they are relevant, of course. If you can apply it, do apply it.
Yeah, but don't plan it. Don't plan that today I will apply. Okay.
Yes.
Everything should be organic. If it is relevant to your answer, it will organically strike you. And you will see that coming on paper organically without you putting in a lot of efforts. But if it's not relevant and then you force fit it, then it's of no use. We may then say after coming out of the exam hall that I use paper 2 thinkers also, but then were they relevant to the demand? Those are more important question than the question of whether we use them or not. Okay.
Thank you.
Actually, ma'am, I'm preparing for 2027 attempt and I'm thinking for opting sociology. It's optional.
Yeah.
My colleague said you have to read these books, like you also suggested, but I don't have good reading of books. I've the return of investment जो books में reading करने का वो मेरा बहुत कम है as compared to notes or teacher.
Right.
So should I go for socio or not?
See, when I switched from eco to socio, my line of thinking was that it is a subject that is very interesting. It's something that I know I can understand very well and write very well. I am not someone who's very good at math. I'm not someone who's very fond of math. So social sciences was something that I was always good at. So the first question that you should ask yourself is whether or not you are someone who likes studying the social sciences. If you do, then please go ahead. It is a very scoring subject also. And this year, socio has done particularly well. So go ahead. If you think that return on reading is not as high for you as something else, there are other methods of reading also. You could always join a course, or you could also refer to toppers notes, but at the same time you have to make those notes your own. Everyone writes their own notes, everyone picks up that stuff from somewhere else. If you are not doing that exercise of assimilation, then it will not be relevant to you because those are not your own. So if you're reading books and then making notes, in my opinion, that's a little better than maybe referring to toppers notes and trying to learn those. So that's your call to make. I mean, you have to figure out eventually what works for you the best.
I have total interest in the social science.
Yeah.
I have वो thinking सब कुछ है. It's only thing about the book reading. तो वो book reading ऐसा factor तो नहीं हुआ कि वो paper नहीं clear हो पाए.
Of course, that is true. But then, where are you reading your base? What's your base material? Is it topper notes?
Topper's note can be a teacher's notes also.
It can be a teacher's notes.
Foundational notes also.
Yes,
I have no issue with that. I can read at that. But when I came to the book, I नहीं आ पाता वो book से.
See, I'm an advocate of book reading, so I don't entirely agree with that. But if I know a lot of people who don't read books and still clear the exam with very, very good marks. So you have to figure out what works for you. I might not be the best person to do it because I like reading and I have read a decent amount for this exam. But it works for other people. If you can find some way to figure out how your base is strong, your theories are strong, then you're good to go, I guess. Then it's just about applying that knowledge.
Any suggestion for increase the जो book reading की habit है उसको develop करने के लिए कोई suggestion आपकी side से?
Sit down and read.
I
mean, pick up if you just want to start off, pick up interesting books. Start with fiction. Don't start with non-fiction because you need something that will bind your interest. And in fiction, if you want recommendations depending on what your taste is, then of course, if you want murder mysteries, if you want thrillers, if you want normal stories, like find them on the internet. Goodreads is a good app. Goodreads is an app I think I'd recommend to everyone. Please use the reviews there, pick up what you like, you find related books. So that way you can build that habit.
Thank you so much.
No issue.
Okay, so we'll take last question now, right?
Ma'am, do's and don'ts before making these short notes, these type of notes.
Do's and don'ts before making these notes? Okay. Don't refer to your own notes while making these notes in terms of make them from your own memory. go back and plug the whatever deficits are, plug them in. Second thing, don't make them bulky. Just write keywords, things that you don't remember, which you end up forgetting. So if you end up forgetting particular things, how I made these notes was that I referred to PYQs. I saw, okay, there is this one topic called emergence of social. I pick up a piece of paper, I write it down there, and then I go back to my notes and see, all right, this is stuff that I forget. Now, this is an iterative exercise. You'll have to do it over and over again so that you remember, okay, I remember this, I remember this, I remember this. And towards the end, this is just a crux of whatever I wanted to take to the exam hall. Right outside, when I'm standing, going into the exam hall, this is what I'm looking at so that it's fresh in my memory. This is also stuff that has little concepts but more facts, because facts are something you have to memorize right before the exam. Your concepts need to be something that are so, like, they are so internalized, you don't need to write them down to remember them. So these are the do's and don'ts.
And intro and conclusion.
Intro and conclusion again comes with brainstorming. There are certain questions which are expected in a particular year. For that, what you need to do is make sure that your content is like par excellence. Be it examples, be it comparison, be it theories, thinkers, something around religion and science, something around religion and science was anyway expected this year. So I made sure that whatever I was preparing, I was doing over and above what the others were already going to do. That really helps.
Yes, topper copy really helps.
Toppers copies help. They help in terms of structuring your answers really well, and sometimes even picking up points which ideally you wouldn't have come across. There are some, all of us cannot read everything all at once. There are things which I have read which other people might not have. There are so many things that other people know that I don't. They are writing them in their answers. Is there any point that I can pick up from their answers and put it into my own notes? So you can definitely do that.
First of all, congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you.
Actually, I personally take this. You are technically against technology because you have said about Bloom's taxonomy,
Yeah.
and this particular word, don't outsource your thinking to AI.
Yeah.
You have emphasized on we have to create, produce, and think organically and relevant. All these things, understanding and the concept. What is the role of discipline and consistency in doing this? Because I can see the pure laborious work you have done, which I mean, hats off for that.
So I'm not against technology because most of my notes are on my iPad, but I'm against
भाविका एक
outsourcing.
चीज थोड़ा वो देखो टेक्नोलॉजी से वो वीक है पता नहीं बट थोड़ा सी साइड में वीक आप रह गए उन्होंने ये नहीं कहा उन्होंने कहा कि आप अपना आउटसोर्स मत करो थिंकिंग टू एआई ये उन्होंने कहा कि मैं टेक्नोलॉजी के खिलाफ हूँ
Matlab, I didn't mean that exactly.
No,
but
of course.
The role of discipline and consistency in learning this laborious work, like kaisa.
Usme, the one thing that I did was whatever tests we were doing, sir, I used to write them on the day they were published. You have to do that even before the prelims, even after the prelims. Right after the prelims ended, I had scored decently enough to know that I was going to clear. So the moment prelims ended, I took a 2-day break. I started off. The first test was before I think even classes had started, but I made sure that I was going to do my own bit and at least write the test, figure things out later on. Classes sometimes did not keep up with what was being asked in the test, which is fine because you have to have a basic understanding of whatever's going on. The classes will help you revise, but the tests will help you actually test what you're going into the exam hall with. So making sure that you're sticking to a schedule. And for me, what really worked was having an external mechanism that was enforcing it on me. I am not someone who works very well with self-set deadlines. So I always had, even for GS, I was following a test series, and my preparation for GS was entirely outsourced. My prep for social was entirely outsourced in terms of what syllabus I was doing in what week was not decided by me. It was decided by LevelUp. Essentially, whatever was done from Monday to Friday. Saturday and Sunday, I had these tests, and that is how I was going about it. So discipline to the extent where you're at least like showing up and writing the test.
Yes.
So ma'am, like for the topic are repeating, like, and but the themes can be different.
Yes.
So like in the pre-way, we can like we can prepare the conclusion and the intro part in a well manner. But what happen like when themes change? So at that time, how we can overcome to think like at the flow structure flow that means answer writing flow like both. How can we do in the like in a short time we can structure at that time, because intro and conclusion we can prepare in the pre-way like in a well manner. But what happened like while writing so body part, how we can overcome these things like at the same day?
Okay. So I would not genuinely would not suggest preparing intros and conclusions, but rather brainstorming what all you can write. Not having a set line or anything, but thinking that okay, if a question on ideal types comes, will it be definition? Will it be something else? Will I give an example? If a question on religion comes, will I give a contemporary example? Will I give a definition? Which thinker will I use? What is the context? So everything has to be tailored to the demand of the question. Even when you're thinking about the body, keywords are important because you're mapping out either it is like we talked about, it's A to B, or it is A leading to B, or it is B causing A, something of that sort. Like there's always usually two variables and those interconnections. So in your head, what needs to be done is that brainstorming process where you know what A is, I know what B is. My body will just have A mapped out to B, supplemented by examples and a conclusion, and the structure has to be such that I'm answering one or two parts of the questions, whatever is asked. Does that make sense?
While writing the answer, we can just mention the keyword. No need to like explain at that time, and just
it depends. It depends. If the answer requires you to explain the keywords, then do it. If it does not require you to explain the keyword, then you can go ahead and map the two things.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
No issue.
So just to exemplify what Bhavika is saying, suppose there is a question, how democracy influences caste system. Now this question has two variables. One is democracy, second is caste system. इसका इम्पैक्ट उस पे क्या पड़ रहा है, बस इतना पूछा, ये नहीं पूछा उसका इस पे वापस क्या पड़ेगा, ये तो उसने पूछा ही नहीं है, हमें बस लीनियर देखना है. तो अब दो तरीके हो सकते हैं इसको सोचने के, लिखने के लिए. पहले तो यू कैन स्टार्ट ऑफ विद one approach which is to define democracy and then caste system, or instead of defining, what you can do is write a statement that explains relationship between the two in dynamic ways, like both appear to be opposite to each other since one promotes equality and second supports inequality. However, there is a great dynamism in the relation and it is not as opposite as it seems to be, or something like this. It all depends on the way question is framed. Or you can say caste is a relatively rigid system, whereas democracy promotes equality, individualism, and makes the opportunity widely available to individuals. And therefore, it may weaken the caste in the long run, caste system in the long run. Now, all the three approaches are fine. Whatever suits you.
Like we can frame the answer organically. No need to like same for all the questions.
Bilkul. Whatever suits you. You will find toppers in all the kind of styles. Okay. सिर्फ डेफिनेशन वाले भी टॉपर्स हैं, स्टेटमेंट वाले भी टॉपर्स हैं. ओके. तो एकदम फ्रीली बस जो लिखो वो सही हो, जो पूछा है बस वही हो और कुछ ना हो.
Hello, Amin. You said you took over 4 hours initially.
I did.
And I attempted the test series at LevelUp last year, and the best I could do was about 3 hours 30 minutes. Okay, so like, what should be the approach to reduce the time? I think that there are 2-3 things in this. One is you like the sequence of attempting the questions. Other is like when you know you cannot complete with the desired quality, you need to format. You need to just change the format. Like there's a format intro, then context, in the body. So you need to skip that in some questions. So what should be my approach to attempting in time?
Okay. So I do actually have a technique for this. What I did was, we have 250 marks. Each question is 50 marks. We have 5 questions. Each question gets 35 marks, 35 minutes from me. Make sense? When we're starting off the paper, we end up writing a lot of stuff. So I used to start with a 20 marker first, which was either question 2, 3, or not 5, 6, 7, 8. One of these questions, whatever question I was picking. So 35 minutes I gave myself to answer those 3 questions, 20, 20, and 10. Okay. What you also have to do is you have to keep looking at the watch while you're answering the question, because I cannot by any circumstance exceed 35 minutes when I'm answering this particular question. I always used to leave the compulsory questions for the end, because those are 10 markers. I can still compromise quality on them a little bit. Those are not going to be the differentiating questions. Those are questions everyone is going to be writing. So those are questions I can compromise the quality on a little bit. What inevitably used to end up happening, and it has happened across test series, across even actual papers. When I wrote paper 1, paper 2, I have left one full page in paper 1 also, in paper 2 also, simply because I did not have the time. Do not compromise on the intro, body, conclusion format, because there are separate marks for intro, conclusion, and body. So don't do that. You can make your answer a little concise. You can write in flowcharts and diagrams. My standard used to be, if I was running short of time, it used to be 1-line intro, okay, a box which had whatever the relevant first part was, spider diagram, 4 points, another box, if not on this page, then on this page, 4 points, and then you have a conclusion. I used to spread it out because I have written answers even in 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I remember in the actual exam as well. Try to finish the paper. That is key. If you're running short of time, quality will get compromised. Try to compromise on the quality of the 10 markers over the 20 markers. Finish the selected questions first. Finish the compulsory questions in the end. This is what I did and what worked for me. A lot of people don't operate this way. A lot of people answer the questions that they know first and then move on to the questions that they don't know. Whatever works best for you, but you have to keep track of the time.
In 20 markers, if you have to leave a page, that's fine, but format should be followed.
Yeah.
And for 10, format should be followed, or like, yes.
Format, try to follow the format, because there are separate marks for these 3 things. There's marks for introduction, there's marks for conclusion, and there's marks for your heading, subheadings. So if you don't attempt that, those are essentially free marks that you're leaving. Even if the examiner doesn't like your introduction, they'll give you half a mark. If you're not writing, they'll have to be forced to give you 0 marks. Why are we because at the end of the day, the exam is you're fighting for 1 mark across each answer. Why should we compromise on this half a mark? That's the only thing. I hope that helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No issue.
Okay, guys. So I think this is the time we should wrap up the session now. और किसी का क्वेश्चन आई थिंक रह तो नहीं गया होगा, सबके क्वेश्चन एड्रेस हो ही गए हैं, जो मेजर डाउट्स रहते हैं सबके, है ना? So Bhavika, firstly, thank you so much for taking time out and coming and guiding the students.
Thank you for having me.
And it is really important that students get to know what exactly works and what happens even if that does not work. What are the other way out? Okay, so you helped students understand all the different methodologies or patterns that you tried on your own, and you can see all the notes that she has made that can help you understand that note making is eventually important. Despite notes being available already out there, you can find out so many toppers notes. Still, despite the availability of those, she made her own notes, and that is something that we must learn. Because until we write our own notes, we can't call those notes as our notes. It will always belong to somebody else, जिसका भी उस पे नाम लिखा है. Okay. So भविका का जो शुरू से ही डेडिकेशन रहा है टू लर्न समथिंग एंड टू एक्सेल इन समथिंग, वो उसी चीज ने भविका को हेल्प किया है. जैसे उन्होंने बताया कि उनको कलरफुल बुक्स पढ़ने में बहुत मजा आता था, यानी कि शी वाज एंजॉयिंग स्टडीज, है ना? मतलब तरीका सबका कुछ भी हो सकता है. वी हैव टू मेक इट फन फॉर अस. या वी हैव टू मेक इट फन फॉर अस. अब किसी को ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट में भी मजा आ सकता है. ओके, बस ये कि मजा आना चाहिए. इंपॉर्टेंट वो है कि आप जब भी कुछ पढ़ो आपको मजा आए, और अब वो मजा नहीं आ रहा तो फिर आपको कोई ना कोई दूसरा मेथड या कोई सोर्स देखना है जिसके थ्रू वो गैप फिल हो कंटिन्यूटी में, बट आपको वो चीज एंजॉय करनी चाहिए. ओके, एंड दिस स्पिरिट which Bhavika has inside her has helped her crack not just civil services, but this helped her to get into Stephen's College also. Saint Stephen's से pass out थी, and economics इनका graduation था, and she knew that she may not do justice to economics maybe, or she was not considering economics.
I love economics, but it doesn't love me back.
Okay. So म्यूचुअल रिश्ता इनको सोशियोलॉजी में दिख गया, और इकोनॉमिक्स में थोड़ा वन साइडेड लग रहा था इनको. सो ये जो चीज है बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट समझना कि हम अपनी तैयारी को फन रखें, इंपॉर्टेंट वो है, और अपने नोट जरूर बनाएं. ओके, एंड चीजों को सिंपल रखें, जिन्होंने जैसा बताया भविका ने, कि आप किसी को भी समझा सको जो भी आप पढ़ते हो, और डोंट गेट बॉग डाउन बाय नंबर ऑफ थिंकर्स और नंबर ऑफ पॉइंट्स. ये सब चीजें ज्यादा सोचनी नहीं है ना. एंड ये भी नहीं सोचना कि all the time कि while writing answer how can I be different from the others, others must have written the same, how can I be different. I would say you are different the moment you write it right, because not everybody is writing it right, they are just writing it. Okay, ऐसा आपको सोचना है. You can't always think कि नहीं बाकी भी सही लिख रहे होंगे. नहीं, अपना ही सोचो, बस अपना ही सोचो सिर्फ कि मुझे सही लिखना है, बाकी सिर्फ लिख रहे हैं. Okay, thank you so much, Bhavika. It was really great fun to have you with us, and we are really honored to have you with us.
I hope everyone was able to take away something, if not a lot, from this session.
I'm very sure they will take away many things. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, students.
Thank you.